Welcome to Uniquely Qualified. I'm your friend and host, Liz Ficken, and I'm so glad you're here. Uniquely Qualified is a podcast that empowers guests to share their experience, strength, and hope in overcoming challenges in the spirit of mutual healing. We hope that you'll leave feeling more aware, connected, and supported in navigating the human experience. Today's episode contains a discussion of addiction and recovery. Please engage in a way that honors what you need today. I'm happy to introduce today's guest, who is a total badass, in my opinion. Colleen Bernardi lives in Sumner, Washington, with her cat Moxie, who we might hear from a little bit today. Moxie is apparently a little bit chatty. Colleen loves being central not only to her biological family, but her chosen family, which includes her best friend of 34 years. After starting her career in litigation support, Colleen rebooted her career after being laid off following the COVID-19 shutdown. She was hired into an operator in training program by King County Department of Natural Resources in the Water Waste Treatment Division. Colleen is now a career service treatment water waste plant operator, something that not many women do, I understand.
Correct.
And in her spare time, Colleen is an avid concert goer and nature lover. She enjoys spending time with her family, especially her precious 2-year-old niece. Colleen, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I probably could spend the whole episode talking with you about your niece and my nephew because I think we can agree that being an auntie is the best.
It's my favorite thing. It's
Yep.
absolutely wonderful.
Yep. Whole new slice of life and perspective when one
Yep.
of your siblings has a baby.
Yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. All right. So, Colleen, in your own words, how are you uniquely qualified?
I am uniquely qualified because after nearly a decade of severe methamphetamine addiction, I reclaimed my life and I am going on almost 20 years of being meth free.
Yes, congratulations. I love
Thank
that word
you.
reclaimed, and I'm just really excited for our listeners to hear what that reclamation looked like.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also just really grateful that you're willing to share so openly about something that, like, outside of the context of, people watching Breaking Bad or having like their own conception of like what does methamphetamine addiction look like, that like you're willing to step into your truth and share about it because I think it's something we all would benefit from learning about.
Oh, yeah. It's a nightmare. You want to avoid it
Yeah.
if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely get into that for sure. I also just want to let you and our listeners know that you, like Colleen, you're not alone. Other people, you are not alone. I know for sure that two of our recurring listeners, they themselves are in meth recovery specifically. And I also know other people who are supporters and followers of the podcast who have had parents that have suffered from meth specific addiction. And so I just want to like set the table that like you're not talking into a void. Like people
Mm-mm.
listening will get it. They have seen it, they have experienced it, either they themselves in their bodies or they've seen other people do it. So you are not alone.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I also want to remind listeners, and I've said this in several episodes when we touch on addiction, but 50% of families in the United States have some level of addiction component. And so the more we talk about it, the more we're able to get past some of this stigma. And my hope is it's threefold. One, that we're educating people. Two, that we're empowering people like Colleen, who I love that she used the word reclaim, that she reclaimed her life and overcame her addiction. Now she can talk about it. But also, I want us to destigmatize the notion that like getting clean or getting sober is something that people like should feel ashamed about. Like that's where the power is. But I think that
Yep.
that I'll speak for myself. That stood in my way where I was like, I don't want to be somebody who's like in recovery. It's like, okay, I'll
Mm-mm.
just keep being sick then. So I just wanted to state that for listeners that like this is about education, empowerment, and destigmatization. And I also hope that if anybody out there is listening and struggling with this, that they'll leave feeling like they know how to take their own next steps towards their own reclamation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also because of that, I want to make sure that, as I do in a lot of our episodes, I just want to ground us in some data and definitions. And so I pulled this nearly verbatim from the National Institute of Health. And this is what it says about methamphetamine. Methamphetamine is a powerful lab made or synthetic stimulant with high addiction potential. Most methamphetamine used in the US is illicitly manufactured and commonly appears either as a powder or in a crystalline form called crystal methamphetamine. And I'm going to sound so basic saying this, but quote, common names include Tina, Ice, and Crystal, end quote.
Oh,
Not trying to be cool, I promise. Meth is most frequently smoked, but can also be snorted, injected, or administered orally or rectally. It causes increased alertness, talkativeness, and decreased appetite, as well as feelings of happiness and well being, among other immediate effects, which can include euphoria or an intense sense of pleasure. Long-term use may have serious health consequences, including unintentional overdose. Meth is also present in many people who die from overdoses that involve fentanyl. The
yeah.
effects of methamphetamine can be felt immediately or within 20 minutes, depending on how it's used. When it's smoked or injected, it enters the bloodstream and brain and produces an immediate and intense rush or euphoria. Other immediate effects also include wakefulness, confidence, energy, sex drive, as well as a decreased appetite. But once the euphoria wears off, it leads to a crash. Some people try to avoid this and will extend the euphoria by repeatedly taking the drug in a binge pattern. And repeated use in this way increases the risk of developing a methamphetamine use disorder. It can also have immediate and long-term negative health effects, including paranoia, anxiety, rapid heart rate, irregular heartbeat, stroke, increased blood pressure, kidney damage, non-fatal overdose, according to the National Institute of Health, also called overramping or fatal overdose. Some people might be that might be news. The information might be news to them. They might not have ever heard of this. They might think, oh, this is just like any other stimulant in terms of like the cycle of use, the way that it makes you feel. But Colleen, is there anything else that you want to add from this like almost like pharmacological scientific perspective about the drug?
I mean, it's absolute poison. So it causes your teeth to crumble. It causes, I mean, a lot of addicts have issues like picking at their skin, which is it can really, really snowball. I have seen some pretty bad conditions on people. It's really, really sad.
Yeah.
It's honestly you're just ingesting absolute poison that has battery acid and I mean it's
Yeah.
insane to think about. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really, really crazy. But yeah, all those things I would say that you quite honestly become addicted after the first or second time
Yeah.
because at the beginning there's such a wonderful euphoria. You feel like you are on top of the world, you can accomplish anything. This is like the feeling that you've been searching for that you didn't even realize that you were missing. Yeah, when you don't have it, it is horrible.
Hmm.
So I think that's why meth addicts they dig their way into that hole really, really quick because the thought of not having it is such a depressive dump that you just make it your mission to have it every time that you're awake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it also, this is not pulled from the National Institute of Health, but what I do know is that it is a producer of dopamine. And so that's that pleasure seeking. And so if you're like causing a dopaminergic dump in your brain, at that it like it's so intense with meth. Other things will do that too, but like
Yeah.
especially with meth, that then to go and be normal, especially if you're already struggling with, let's say, like depression, or you have something else going on with your brain where you don't have a lot of dopamine, then that is going to make it really hard, even if you really want to stop, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. That's yeah, I think that I was always a little depressed as a
Mm-hmm.
teenager. So yeah, that added to me falling in love with this drug
Yeah.
because it gave me the dopamine. It made me super happy. Yeah,
Uh,
that it's a nightmare.
yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're on the other side and that you're here to tell the tale of that.
Oh yeah, I'm so happy every day.
So why don't we start with what your relationships with drugs and alcohol was like before that first time using meth?
I think I started, they always say that marijuana is the gateway drug.
Oh boy.
It may or may not have been, yes, of course, it was the first drug that I used.
Hmm.
I was probably, I don't know, 14 or 15.
Hmm.
And I started, yeah, going to parties and smoking a little weed and drinking. And I started blacking out right away from drinking when I was young. So
Hmm.
I think that that kind of shows um, maybe some addiction or something like that in my family,
Yeah.
because I don't think that's normal. I don't think it might be, but I think that it also shows that I should not have been someone to be drinking and doing drugs from such a young age, because it got real bad real quick with how my body reacted to it. So
Yeah.
um yeah, I started dabbling in drug use pretty young. So
Yeah.
first time I used meth was I was 15, which is
You were.
terrifying to think of when I look at my friends' children that are
Yeah.
15. And I'm like,
Right.
how are you even, why would you even consider that? I don't know. But
We think we're so grown once we're high school age. We're like, "Ah,
yeah,
don't tell me what to do. I can make my own decisions."
yeah,
But yeah, you get a little bit of space from that and you're like, you are a child. Your brain won't
you're,
develop for another
yeah,
10 years. What are you doing?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm old enough to have been in the generation that they had Dare. Have you ever heard of Dare?
Oh, yes, we had a
Oh,
very
yes.
handsome dare officer going
Okay,
into
good.
our
I don't
fifth
know if they
grade.
still do that. So I kind of
I
was
don't
aging
know.
myself.
No,
Um,
I we still had it. I was born in
okay. I didn't know
89
if,
and we still had it.
okay, good. Well, everything that they tell you about meth is true. It is
Yeah.
literally, it's as bad as they tell you. So just listen. I think
Yeah.
that, I don't know why I wanted to do drugs, but
Yeah.
I would, yeah,
I will also just say that other people who are listening or that have experienced that like okay, I am consuming the same thing that my peers are consuming, but I'm having an unexpected and different response. That is like a
mm-hmm,
theme of people that have dealt with addiction. And I'll raise my
yeah,
hand on that. Like I remember my first beer, it was like a beer, and I was like, I need to take a nap. I'm tired. Everybody else was like, what are you talking about? You just had a beer. And I'm like, immediately I'm tracking on, okay, I'm consuming something and my physiological reaction is different from other people's. So I'm
yeah,
relating to you in that.
yep. Some people are definitely more prone to being addicted to things.
Yeah. And I would also just say like there's nothing wrong with that because it's something we can't control genetically, but it's like,
Yeah,
from a harm reduction perspective, say like, hey, if you notice that you're having this reaction, like you might have a propensity to become addicted. Like that wasn't something that
yeah,
it was don't do. It was like don't do drugs. It was dare, like stay away. It wasn't like,
mm-hmm,
hey, like just so you know, this could have longer term consequences.
yeah, yep. And everything
Yeah.
they warn you about is it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So pay attention.
So you started with a little bit of marijuana consumption, partying in high school. You're 15 when you use meth for the first time. Can
Mm-hmm.
you walk us through like how you got access to it, what the circumstance was, what was that like?
Ah, man. I feel like my friends and I started talking about doing it because someone had it at a party. So it just made us curious. And then we
Yeah.
started, for some reason, we decided to seek it out. And I honestly don't remember how, yeah, we were just sort of determined for some reason. It seemed like people were talking about it. Maybe we thought it would make us cool or
Mm,
make us fit in. It probably, we were kind of like looking to be the bad girls or something.
mm,
And we definitely reached that goal. Unfortunately, um, I think that we just had a sort of like a rougher circle of friends that like to party, and we seeked it out. And yeah, it was not good from the get-go. It was not good. I don't have any idea how I was able to pull that off with my parents, but I think that they figured out that something was wrong pretty darn quick. Um, I would like lie, of course, about where I was staying the night. I would just avoid being at home, and it it just snowballed like crazy.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. So it got really, really bad. And I think I was in my junior year. It was the summer of my junior year. And one of my friends that I used to do meth with, his father, this is horrible, his father actually did heroin with him and he overdosed. My friend
mm-hmm.
Don overdosed, but his father did not, which was
Whoa. That's
Uh-huh.
hard.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah, he was 17. He overdosed, and that sort of scared me straight for a little while. I think till the end of until I graduated about, so I kind of stopped using for a while
Mm-hmm.
and graduated from high school and did all that. But then after high school, I just went right back into it. I got a boyfriend that did drugs that lived in this trailer park by the high school, and it just, I don't think I looked back from when I graduated. I kind of just went right into the drug use, and I
Mm-hmm.
sort of blocked everyone out that wasn't like all my best friends in school or whatever. I sort of just I left them in the dust because the only thing I was interested in was doing drugs every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I was very functional for a while, like
Mm-hmm.
having a job, going to work every day, making it look like I was okay, but it really, really happened quick. Besides that little chunk that I took off after my friend died, just it happens very quick. Anyways, it did for me.
When you're talking about some things that I consider hallmark with addiction, like your world getting small and
Hmm.
like things like I don't minding your supply, where it's like I'm just thinking about where I'm gonna get it, how I'm gonna get it. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong, but
No.
where it's like
Oh.
I'm doing everything in service of this other thing, and
Hmm.
I am gonna cut out people, places, and things that are gonna get in the way of my ability to consume how I want to consume. Is that
Yeah.
fair? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in high
Mm-hmm.
school, yeah. So in that about year that I sort of like laid off it because I was scared straight, for lack of a better phrase.
Mm-hmm.
I still partied a lot with my friends in high school. We would go to raves and late night parties and use hallucinogenic drugs and dance and do all sorts of fun stuff. So I'd never really stopped and was actually clean since I
Mm-hmm.
had started. But it was more of a fun thing rather than like this horrible. I don't know. I just think of I'm not going to try to make any drugs sound good here. None of the drugs are
Yeah.
good, but
Yeah.
methamphetamine is dark,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I don't know. It takes a severe turn. So
Mm-hmm.
um
That
yeah, for a while,
crash. Oh,
yeah, that
sorry.
crash. No, it's okay.
Other drugs don't
Um
have that as much.
yeah,
I would venture to
not as
say.
much.
Not as
And at
hard.
least I surrounded myself with fun things. Like we were going dancing, we were going to raves.
Yeah.
Like I guess that maybe that's part of the addiction is or addictive behavior is that you trick your brain into thinking that it's not bad for you when
Sure.
in all actuality it's all bad for you. It really is going to
Yeah.
affect you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go through that season where you're I think scared straight is it
Hmm.
was definitely like the language of the time too, where it was like
Oh
get your
yeah.
kids scared straight,
Yeah.
scare them straight.
Oh my God.
um I'm just thinking of like all these like daytime things of
Oh
like
my
daytime
gosh.
TV. And then so you take some time away from the hardest of the drugs, and then you
Yeah.
graduate,
Get it.
boyfriend.
Get a boyfriend.
Mhm.
He's into drugs, and so am I.
And was it one of those things where you felt like a part of as like in the using and like there was connection there and everything else was like you don't understand me?
Kind of, yeah. Well, I mean, misery loves company because I'm throwing out all these cliches here,
I
but
love it. Keep them coming.
it's true.
Yeah.
They're a cliche for a reason. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
miserable. You're miserable together, and then you just sort of make it home. And yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot that we had in common except for the drug use.
Smiling, not in a way where it's funny, but because that I have that commonality with my
Yeah.
ex. I say that alcohol, that he was the third party with my relationship with alcohol. It was like me and
Oh,
alcohol,
yeah.
and then like he was there. That made it more fun too. But that was
Hmm.
what it was about. Were you guys going out and doing stuff, or like, or were you mostly at home? Talk to me about like what your relationship was like and how drugs were involved.
I was still working full time. We would go do things, but not very social things.
Hmm.
Honestly, it's kind of blurry, that part.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of just seek out other people that are doing drugs or you stumble upon them because you're meeting them when you're going to get the drugs or whatever. And they just all become your family kind of, which
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you really do develop relationships with the people. But yeah, we didn't do much in ways of like going to the movies or anything like that. We kind of
Yeah.
stayed in that trailer park and did our meth.
Mm-hmm.
So poster child, but
Yeah. I mean, it's millions of people can relate to
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I know that like with alcohol, with drugs, with things that change our minds and our bodies, like there's different parts of our story where things start to escalate with a lot of people. I should say, I'm not trying to put this onto your experience, but like, is meth the kind of drug where it's like I wake up and I need to consume it? Or is it like I just don't sleep? Or is it like I get through the workday and then I go home and I use like how did that fit
mm,
into like you're working full time? How is your full-time job fitting its way into your drug use? Saying that
I
kind of like
was
tongue in cheek as a fellow person in
yeah,
recovery.
I was very sneaky.
Mm.
I was still living with my parents. I would leave their house to go to work, and I would just pull over on the side of the road and consume, and then go to work. And then on my break, I would do drugs. I I would just fit it in,
Yeah.
avoiding the down. And honestly, yeah, there was long bouts of not sleeping at all. Definitely, it is. You literally physically cannot sleep, nor do you want to, because you just want to keep doing drugs. And it became. I think that about probably, I mean, a year after I'd graduated from high school, so about 97, 98. If I didn't have drugs, I could not stay awake. Like
Yeah.
my body couldn't do it. So if I was sleeping if I didn't have drugs, which ended up, that's how I lost my job eventually. Yeah. So I was a good old functioning addict. And I pulled it off pretty darn well for a while. I know that people started seeing a difference in my appearance.
Mm.
I started having skin issues,
Mm.
definitely losing weight. You just start looking like a zombie. It's
Mm-hmm.
not pretty. I moved out of my parents' house, got an apartment, um, was still functioning, but at about 2001, I did not, there had been a couple days where I didn't have any drugs, and I fell asleep and I wouldn't wake up. I was the assistant manager at a music store,
Mm-hmm.
and it caused me to not open. No one was there to open the store,
Mm. Yeah.
and we had a ticket master. There's like ticket on sales. You have to be there. The store has to open. I need to be there for my job,
Physically,
but
yeah.
I wasn't, because I was dead asleep because I didn't have drugs, and that had happened a number of times. I eventually lost my job because of that. So that is when the addiction gets really good, and you can no longer be a functioning addict anymore because you can't maintain a job.
Hmm.
So how do you pay your rent? How do you do anything? That's when it really starts that nosedive into a downward spiral. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
good for a while. I would just sneak the drugs wherever I was. I can guarantee if you saw me in those years, I was on drugs, sneaking it somehow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like that the saying that's coming to mind for me is it works until it doesn't. And that's what it
Hmm.
sounds like happened to you in that time where it's like it's getting by, I'm getting through, I'm fitting it in, I'm holding work. And then that sleeping thing, I know that is like to use the
Mm.
word hallmark again, like stimulant use disorder. Anybody who is addicted to a stimulant, like that is what it becomes is like I can't stay awake. I say that as
Yeah.
having had somebody in my life that I loved who was really addicted to cocaine, which I know is not the same as meth, but like the same
Oh,
patterns of
it's
like
yeah.
I can't do anything. I can't literally get out of bed, and I
Yeah.
will
No,
sleep
it's
for
it's
three
got a
days at
lot
a
of
time.
yeah, it
Hmm.
is very similar qualities for sure. Yeah, and it's horrible because then you just how do you stop using the drug when it's not even that you're asking a lot from life. You just want to be able to stay awake so that
Yeah,
you could even, I don't know, go to the grocery store, but you just can't. Your
yeah.
body just shuts off.
Hmm.
It is, yeah, it's not great. But I will say, when you're getting clean, there are not a lot of It's not like heroin use or quitting drinking alcohol where you have effects that can kill you or make you sick. Like you
Right.
just have to stop using, and you need, anyway, in my experience, you just need to sleep it off for like,
Yeah.
I don't know, a month if you need a month. But you can just, it's not like you have to be watched because you might have a seizure or something. You
Yeah.
can just you lean into that sleep and there you go.
I really see the double bind there too, and I'm glad you brought that up because until I had a therapist tell me like you're really playing with fire, I was physiologically addicted to alcohol. She was like, "There's two things that can kill you: coming off of alcohol
Hmm.
unsupported, you can have a seizure and die, and benzos, where if you come off of that unsupported, you can literally put yourself in, like you can die. Those are the two things.
Yeah.
Other things you might feel like you're dying, but you literally can die from alcohol and benzos. And
Yes.
so
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
yeah, it helped me where I was like, because I was like, whatever, it's drinking, it's legal. It's like, well, it can kill you though.
Yeah.
So just because you have access to it doesn't mean that if you're addicted to it like I was, that you're not like in serious harm. And I guess
Yes.
where the double bind is, or I would imagine where it's like, well, I don't need medical intervention. I just need to sleep this off. I don't need other people involved. I'll do this on my own. And
Yeah.
what I have seen is that without some other external force getting involved, it's really hard to stay clean or sober without some other intervention, I'll say.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Um, so I know so the last date you mentioned was 2001, where you're having a hard time staying awake when you don't have drugs. And then I
Yeah.
also know that 2005 is the year you get clean. Walk us
Hmm.
through those last few years of your time active in addiction.
Oh boy.
If you can, it might be blurry.
Yeah, totally. It's blurry, but I can
Okay.
but I remember the misery, that's for damn sure. So yeah, I had completely separated myself from my family.
Hmm.
It was really, really sad because my younger sister Shannon, I was missing so much of her young life, which was
Mm.
so important to me. And that guilt ate me up
Oh,
because
yeah.
I was, oh my gosh, it was absolutely horrible. And then when you have guilt like that, because you can't stop doing this drug, it just pushes you to have more self-loathing and you just keep doing more and more drugs to numb that guilt. So I missed my family so much. I was missing Shannon growing up. Um, I when I lost my job, 2001, I got, okay, so this is what happened is my boyfriend at the time, I would go to work when I still had the job without me knowing, had ingredients to cook meth in the apartment that we lived.
Mm.
I um did not know that. He was
Hmm.
never supposedly he was never going to cook meth in my apartment. Well, I darn hope not. But it doesn't matter because for some reason detectives came to my house when I was home alone. I stupidly let them in without a
Mm.
warrant because I didn't think that I had anything to hide.
Yeah.
They were looking for him and they ransacked my apartment and found three ingredients that are used to cook meth. That was enough to arrest me. I mean, it was horrible because I essentially that's considered a meth lab. So not only did I lose my apartment, I was the one responsible for those ingredients because the apartment was in my name. I wasn't going to say his name to the police. I just took it on myself. That's just how we roll. So I was just going to take the blame for it, and that's what I did. I never saw him again after that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very weird shift. I never saw him again. He was in hiding because he knew that those detectives were looking for him. So I was arrested. I went to jail for a few weeks. I think that no, it was just for 3 days because they didn't want to charge me yet. And if they don't charge you with a criminal crime, they have to release you if they don't charge you in 3 days. So they
Huh.
released me, but they have 7 years after that to charge you. But they wanted to build a better case and they were trying to get me to narc on him, which I wasn't going to. So I basically, once they let me out of jail after that, I never got the apartment back. It was completely considered a hazardous material, like hazmat came and
Yeah.
I lost everything. I just went real dark real quick on that one. So I
Mm-hmm.
um, was kind of on the run because I knew that there was no way that the police were not going to eventually charge me with having a quote unquote meth lab in my apartment.
What do you know the
So
actual
I
charges there? Is it like like manufacturing and
um
intent to distribute or
that would have been manufacturing.
okay.
They I pled out in the end,
Okay. And
which
I'm not trying to get to the
yeah,
punchline. I'm just like
yeah,
wondering what
no,
those
no.
those
It would have been intent to manufacture. Yeah, that's
intent to
exactly what it yeah,
manufacture.
intent
Okay.
to manufacture because
Okay.
there was no drugs in the apartment. There was yeah, it would have been intent to manufacture, which
Okay.
is um a very long prison sentence. So that was fun.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so
Um
scary.
it was scary and it was scary enough for me to run like hell. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
I did. I just sort of took off. I lost everything. My parents actually helped me. I think that they put all my stuff into a storage unit for me and paid for it for a
Mm,
number of years, or I paid for it. I can't remember. Sorry, mom and dad, if you paid for it. I don't even remember at this point. I think that I eventually ended up losing it, or somebody else took my belongings, but I ended up losing everything.
mm,
I was basically homeless, but I would just stay with people here and there and we would do drugs and that whole thing. I didn't have another job until I got clean. So yeah, it just got darker and darker because we were surrounded with people doing drugs. I had
mm-hmm.
so many bouts of so many friends going to prison. You just lose people over and over. It's really, really hard because you
Yeah.
do get like I don't ever discount the relationships that I had with people when I was on drugs because they were real relationships and I did really love them and they did really love me. I feel like that sort of I feel like relationships that you have with people in addiction kind of get discounted and they are real.
Mm,
So that is another hard thing of getting clean because you have to separate yourself from those people because that if they're still in active drug use, if you want to succeed, you have to leave them behind, which sucks. But that's another part of the onion of drug abuse is that if you want to get clean, you have to leave them and you feel like you're abandoning them because they're not on the same page, they're not ready to get clean when you are, or whatever.
yep. I relate to
Yeah,
that too.
yeah,
Yep.
totally. It's very painful.
Yeah.
But I mean that's so from 2001 when I lost my apartment, never saw that boyfriend again, went and had a couple other boyfriends and we did what we needed to do to survive and found places to live and stay here and there. Never actually had our own actual place. We just would stay with people or we would sleep in a car. It wasn't like I was on the street in a tent or anything, but yeah, it was not ideal by any
Mm-hmm.
means. I somehow magnetized towards people that deal drugs. Or sorry, that was supposed to be past tense. Yeah, my boyfriends
I heard it as past tense.
my boyfriends were drug dealers. Yeah, and then they would end up going to prison because that's what happens with drug use and drug dealers. So,
Yeah.
um yeah, that's what it was like. I was absolutely miserable on the inside. It ate me up being away from my
Mm-hmm.
family and my best friends. My mom would always find me somehow.
Oh,
I know.
mom.
I know, a mother's love, I tell you. I know. There was an apartment that I would stay at quite a bit, and that was the most common place. I don't even remember how I might have told her about it because I would show up at their house on like Christmas Day and be like, "Hi, I'm here. I know you haven't seen me in 8 months or 12 months, but it's Christmas, so I'm here." And then I would like promptly fall asleep on their couch because I didn't
Yeah.
have drugs.
Yeah.
And then they would try to get me to stay, and I would always have an excuse that I had to go for whatever I had something to do that was so important as if
Mm-hmm.
I had to go do drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really, really hard. But I would definitely try to be there on Christmas. That was like where I drew the line somehow.
Yeah.
But so I think I must have told her that I would stay at this apartment. I gave her the address. So she would always like leave note cards and pictures, and like pictures of, yeah, Shannon or my other sister Bridget, and say that, your family misses you. And she took a picture of the street that drives up to their neighborhood. I
Mm,
look at this. I look at this usually every year on my recovery date, because
mm.
it's like the most perfect vision. And it's just the street that goes to their neighborhood. And she wrote under, it was a Polaroid, and she wrote on the front of the picture, "This is the way home. Please come home."
Oh man.
I know.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's
Um,
powerful.
it, it's very powerful. Yeah, but that was one of the ones that she left on the front porch there. But yeah, I was just miserable, and I would avoid um avoid my mom. If she like called my phone, somehow she just could find me. So
Yeah.
I know she never gave up. My mom never ever gave up. Not that anyone did, but she was the one that would like hunt me down.
Wow.
Which
Yeah.
I thank her for, because it's so important that you know that you have somewhere to go, or people that love you or are missing you. Um, Otherwise you just get lost in the addiction. You
Mm-hmm.
need you completely you can't see out of the misery. You can't see past it. So yeah, that I don't know what I would do if I had not had my mom, honestly. She never gave up.
Yeah.
But what happened is I eventually came home to this apartment that I was staying at, and I walked in the door, and there was detectives standing there, and they were like, "Hi, Colleen, you're under arrest." And I was like, "Oh, shoot." Yeah, so
Did
shoot.
you go
Yeah.
willingly?
Of course. Well, yeah, I went willingly. There was two
Okay.
detectives standing there with
Okay.
handcuffs ready to put them
Yeah.
on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is what happened. Before that arrest, I had definitely had many interactions with the police for stupid things like shoplifting. I needed to eat food. I
Mm-hmm.
shoplifted. Yeah, just a lot of different things. I've definitely been in and out of jails for tiny little things. So I definitely had my experience with the police, but the detectives were waiting for me because they were finally charging me with the intent to manufacture, which is
Okay.
which was the very scary sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very clear memory, is that one. Hi, Colleen.
Yeah, I imagine
Yeah,
that was really scary.
yeah, I was like, dang it. I was trying to not have this happen, and hoping that maybe I could, I don't know what I thought. You just can't run from some things, and it just caught up with me. So
Yeah.
they arrested me.
Colleen and I were just discussing her interactions with law enforcement up and to the years that she got clean. So, Colleen, walk us through that a little bit.
Okay, so I'm sorry for the confusion on that.
Oh, that's okay. Like you said, you're also
It
like you're
is
not sleeping during these years. You're
it
constantly under the stress of like being on the go. You're not like permanently housed. The fact that you're
yeah.
able to like even put this together, I think truly don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had been arrested a number of times for different little things. I know it gets confusing with the how were you arrested for attempt to manufacture and not charged? They have 7 years to file charges for
7 years.
something like that. 7 years. It's the statute of limitations. So they were just trying to build a case, or I don't know what was taking them so long, but I had been
Mm-hmm.
arrested for stupid little things or whatnot. And one of the times when I was arrested, they finally filed the intent to manufacture charges on me.
While you
So
were in?
yes, I was arrested for
Okay.
shoplifting. They said, by the way, you're not getting out of jail. We're transferring you to another place because they are filing these charges that have been looming over my head. So that's what happened is they finally did charge me. Um,
So you were booked on
And
a misdemeanor, and then they were
booked on
like,
a
"Oh,
misdemeanor, and they're like,
but don't
yeah,
forget about
just
this
kidding.
one." Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
just kidding. Yeah, so that's what they did. I got an attorney. I was incarcerated for probably 5 months, and all of this that time went towards the sentence that I was eventually sentenced to.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Were you in
yeah, so
county at that time?
I was in county. Yeah.
Okay.
It was not fun. Yeah, this another layer of the addiction onion. Yeah, it's not fun. Was able to get an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to have a public defender. He really, really helped me. Eventually, they lowered the charge from intent to manufacture to that. I mean, that I think the sentence was like up to 12 years or something horrible like that. They lowered it to, or I pled out to possession with intent to distribute, which
Okay.
is always weird when they create these plea bargains because there wasn't any drugs even there. So it's like, sure, I'm going to take it because it's a lesser charge, obviously. Um,
Yeah, where
but
it's like
that,
there were
yeah,
parts in possession, not actual drugs. Also, you
no,
weren't intending to distribute. You weren't.
no,
It was in
yeah,
your home.
yeah. It's
Okay.
it's just the way the law, yeah, it's just the way it
It's
works.
just how you
So
had to slice it. Yeah.
yes, so I pled to intent to manufacture, or
Okay.
sorry, intent possession with intent to distribute.
Oh, you're fine.
Correct. And that sentence they gave me was 1 year and 1 day. And they add the day because 1 year you go to county jail, 1 year and 1 day you go to prison. So I got a prison sentence, which, so that's what I
Mm-hmm.
did. And I told them somehow they listened to me, maybe because I was more convincing after I'd been clean in jail for about
Yeah.
4 or 5 months. I made it sound like I had some stuff, some loose ends I needed to handle before I went to prison. Somehow they believed me and they let me out. Again, very sneaky. And I got out and I ran again. So I ran again. So that was probably in 2003. I ran for a good 2 years and got back into the drugs and did it all again. And then that's when I was staying with my friend at his apartment. I was thrift store shopping, came home, walked in, and that's when the detectives were there. And they were like, "Hi, Colleen, we've been looking for you." Yeah, because I was supposed to turn myself in. Because they'd given me like, you can have 2 weeks to, you know, button up any businesses that you need, whatever, loose ends before you go to this prison sentence. It was very kind of them to offer me that time to do that, but I said, sure. I nodded and smiled, and then I ran.
Was there any sort
So
of, I know I've heard of this happening where there's like a bail or a bond involved. Was this just like goodwill of the state of Washington?
it was just a judge that trusted me and
Yeah.
probably had good history with my attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, just give her a couple weeks and then she'll turn herself back in and serve this year and a day. But I did not do that. I went and did drugs again.
Like a very good addict.
I was real loyal to that stupid drug.
Yeah, it's amazing what chemicals can do just to like hijack our
Hmm.
whole sense of being and our whole decision-making process. So just to make sure that I have the timeline straight, just because I think I've said this on other episodes. I was a history major, and so I'm like very about like chronologically what happened.
Well, thank you because I'm all over the place. So I think,
No, it
thank
just
you.
helps me keep it organized in my brain. So 2001 is one of those upticks or downticks depending on how
Hmm.
you want to slice it with losing work. 2003 is when you are in do your longest stint. You do 5 months in county. Um, they give you some time away, and then you are on the run for 2 years.
Yeah, I don't turn
Okay.
myself in like I say I was supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
So
yeah, you were released on like a good faith
a
effort on
personal
the
recognizance kind of a thing. They're like,
Okay.
okay, we trust you. Go ahead and tie up any loose ends.
And how old are you at this point?
Okay,
Not to make you
2003,
do math, but
23.
23. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
you're all, I guess just wanted to clarify that because I'm like, this is a very crafty young woman.
Oh yeah. Ah,
Sneaky.
Yeah. Well, you have to be sneaky if you want to keep doing those drugs.
Right.
So I was gonna, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that just like in general with any kind of addiction where it's like I'm gonna lie, I'm gonna sneak, I'm gonna
Hmm.
omit the truth. And it's not like people feel good about doing that, by the way, which I think that you speak
No.
to. And not to like get in the way of like getting to that like the end of the story in 2005, but when you were talking earlier, I was just thinking about I use the phrase shame spiral with my therapist as I was like in the years leading up to me getting sober, where it was like,
Yeah.
I'm feeling so bad about this, but then I'm gonna drink about how bad I feel, and then I'm feeling worse, so I'm gonna keep drinking. It was literally like it would start like as like a big spiral, and then it would get smaller
Oh,
and smaller until it would just be like a real huge binge episode.
yeah.
And yeah, and it's just like I don't like I think there's this misconception about addiction where it's like you just feel so good and you just like want to keep
Mm-mm.
feeling so good. It's like no, it's actually to like prevent the shitty feelings. It's like keeping everything you can at bay to not feel fucking terrible all the
Absolutely.
time. So I just want people to know
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. It's not like I'm feeling
Oh,
so
yeah.
good. It's like no, I'm feeling so fucking terrible actually.
Oh, it was horrible. I
Yeah.
would cry constantly,
Mhm.
constantly. It was horrible.
Mhm.
I just remember crying and crying and thinking, how has this become my life? How have I
Yes.
gotten myself into this absolute dark hole that I can't see
Mhm.
out of? And I remember thinking, how is this going to be forever? This is it. I had
Yeah. Yeah.
zero hope of ever getting myself there's because I just knew I just couldn't. I could
Mhm.
not stop using drugs. And how sad that I had those months that I'd been in jail clean and that I could have used that as my first stepping stone to just get finish what you have to do what you're supposed to do, and get clean. You already have 5 months or whatever it was under your belt. Like, just do it. And I
Mhm.
couldn't. I couldn't. I just, all I wanted was to get my foot out of that jail and so that I could do drugs again.
Mhm. Well, you were in high school, you were so young when it started, and appreciate how you're just so willing to hold yourself accountable every step of the way, but also like you didn't know anything else. And so it makes sense to me. I also again relating, not that I'm trying to make this a like Liz and Colleen
No.
story, but I distinctly remember so I got sober when I was 30, and I distinctly remember as I was checking myself into detox, I was like, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid I'm gonna live forever this way.
Oh.
And so I knew death was a risk, but I was like, all right, one way or another, this has to change. But
Hmm.
I was like, wow, I might have because people in my family live a really long time. I was like, I might live a really long time, absolutely miserable,
Oh,
or I
that's
might
so
have a
sad.
seizure and
Yeah.
die. It's like those were the and then
Yeah.
it was like, all right, I just got to figure out how to like get off this ride.
Yeah.
And
Third option, get clean, honey. You can do
yeah,
it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like or maybe
Yeah.
do something else. But it was like, well, it's one
You
or the
can't see
other.
past it. You can't see
No,
past it.
no, exactly. And so I guess I wanted to say that giving you credit for where it's like, because it's not just again, it's not just you. People that are in and out of institutions or in and out, you have to learn a new way. And that's
Hmm.
why I love talking to somebody like you who is approaching 20 years clean, where it's like you can find a new way and it can stay that way, but there's that
Yeah.
learning period. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we like let listeners in on that. Like for those that aren't in recovery or haven't seen somebody go through what we've gone through, it's not like, oh, I'm choosing this.
No.
It's it might look like a choice, but there's a lot of like fear, anxiety, and like I don't know what else I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. You just
Yeah.
don't know how to, you
Yeah.
don't know how to look outside that
Exactly.
little area. You have your blinders on that are they're there for because of chemical addiction. It's crazy. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another difficult thing about watching people that you love in active addiction is that they are a completely different human being and they can't stop doing something. It feels like it's this alien life form that you're watching, and it's heartbreaking to watch people that you love go through it. And it's so
So
common.
true.
Yeah.
Yes. That is so true. Or where it's like you see somebody who it's like, okay, well, you keep getting high and then you're sleeping for 3 days at a time. Maybe don't get high. And it's like, I'm saying that from like as if there like isn't information. But I
Just
had
stop doing it.
just
Yeah.
like, just stop. Just why can't you stop?
Mm-mm.
I feel like I can't imagine if anybody has loved somebody and you're like, why don't you just stop? It's a yes or a no. Like, do I pick up? Do I not pick up? Just don't do it. It's
Mm-mm.
never that simple. And your brain's
If
hijacked.
only. It's
Yeah,
completely
exactly.
hijacked. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
nice little stranglehold on you. There's not
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't think to make the right choices. You can't. It's just it is just hell. It really is. It's horrible.
It's running it's hell, and it's running the show where it's not like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to my next fix." It's,
Mm.
"Okay, like I'm on the clock. I'm about to start like it sounds like you're in your experience where there's going to be a time where I'm going to like pass out, or like for me it was like I'm going to start sweating and people are going to realize something is physically wrong with this woman. I'm laughing not because it's funny,
Yeah.
but just because I feel like when people have experienced what the things that you and I have, we can laugh and be like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
normal Tuesday going into withdrawal at work. Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very relatable for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to take us way to the side there,
No,
but
that's okay.
so okay, so let's to go back to the chronological order. You're let out to take care of business. You run again, and then this is 2005 when there's the
2005.
detectives. All right, and you're
Yes.
put in
Yeah.
cuffs again.
Yep.
Take us from there.
Okay. So then they arrest me to go finish the rest of my sentence.
Okay.
So they take me to jail. I go basically, I remember my mom and my sister Bridget came and visited me at the King County Jail. I remember crying and saying that I can't stop using drugs. I cannot stop using this drug.
Yeah.
And just crying about it. And I think that I finally was like releasing. I was allowing myself to be vulnerable, and
Hmm.
I was accepting that maybe this could be the turning point. Maybe that's where the tears were coming from, or just all the guilt. I mean, there's a million reasons why I just could not stop crying, but I had so much guilt for what I'd put them through. Yeah, I had really done a number on my family, so I felt absolutely horrible. But anyways, I went to prison. Because I had done those whatever months already in county, that went towards my prison sentence, the time. So I went to prison. I was there for a few months, and then I was able to go to work release to finish the end of my prison sentence. I got out in, I feel like it was November of 2005. Went to work release, and I got a job downtown Seattle at a litigation support company. And my boss was a recovering meth addict, and he hired
Oh,
me. I know many companies don't want to hire people that are in work release because they just kind of assume that you're not going to be an employee that lasts.
sure.
He recognized the address, I think, on the work release, on my job application. He knew that I was in work release. So I remember he interviewed me, and he asked me questions, and he told me about his past, and I told him, and he hired me. I mean, a very, very good man. And
Hmm.
he is like family to me still.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gave me a chance. He said that he knew that I was going to be a good employee. And I ended up working there for 16 years.
Wow.
And that job I mean, that is such an important part of getting clean, is that
Hmm.
you get a job and you start earning your self worth and you start feeling like you're a valuable human being again.
Yes.
And you can feed yourself and you can have a future and you can be healthy. Yeah, like that is so important. And that's when my life started turning around. I got out of work release. Um, my mom and dad allowed me to go move back into their home. So at that point, I'm like 26. I moved back home with mom and dad. Shannon, my younger sister, still lived there too. Yeah, they had a very, very strict set of rules that I had to live by. And I remember signing a contract with them for sure because I had screwed them over a number of times in acting like I was going to get clean and then just disappearing again. And anyways, yeah, they had a set of rules. I wasn't allowed to talk to people from my drug circles. I wasn't allowed to smoke cigarettes. I wasn't there was no drinking, there's no drug use, anything like that. I had to go to work every day. I had, things like that. And I was willing to I wanted to stay clean. And so I was very happy and very grateful and honestly surprised that they would let me move back in their home. So I was very humbled. Yeah, so that is where I moved and part of my probation from my sentence was that I obviously had to have probation for like a year and a half or 2 years, I think. I was sentenced to a year of outpatient drug treatment,
Mhm.
and those two things really kept me in line because if you get a dirty UA, then your probation is bad. Then you have to go back to prison and you have to serve even more time. They add like a whole, I don't know, probably the amount of probation you would have to go back to jail for. I can't
Ooh,
remember. Yeah.
steep.
So I mean, yeah. I'm not giving up my freedom again. That was
No.
not where I want to live. That was not fun. Um,
Also, for our listeners who don't know what a UA, it's a urinalysis. It's they collect your pee, make
oh,
sure
sorry.
it's no. I'm sure a lot of people know what it is, but in recovery
Yes.
circles, everybody knows what a
Yeah.
UA is. Like
Yeah.
a lot of peeing in
Totally.
cups. But just so people
Hmm.
know, it means that they were verifying. Yep, she's still clean.
She's
She doesn't
still
have drugs in her
clean.
system,
Yeah.
or alcohol.
Yep. And so I did that. I did all the things. I stayed. I was living with my parents and my younger sister, and I was going to my outpatient drug classes. I was really like rediscovering who I was because
Mm-hmm.
it is like a fog that lifts from your brain, and then all of a sudden you're sort of seeing clear again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I would ride the bus from Federal Way to downtown Seattle to my job. Yeah, I was doing everything really, really well. I'm still proud of myself.
Yeah, as you should be.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because it just sort of clicks because part of the time I felt like I still had the intention of I just knew, well, this is like too good. I thought that I knew that it was too good to be true, that I would end up somehow in that miserable hole again. And it takes a few months when that fog clearly lifts, and then you're like, no, this is what life is supposed to be. And I
Mm-hmm.
am so happy and grateful to be around people, and I feel strong, and I feel like I'm actually encouraging others. Like, that's one good thing about like drug treatment classes is that you're all supporting each other, and there's like you and I have been having so many things in common that you
Mm-hmm.
can, even if they're miserable things, you can kind of laugh it off together and be like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, oh, that happened to you too, oh gosh, we were so stupid.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah, where
it's
you like
great. Yeah.
understand one another. You understand
Mm-hmm.
what it's like to be in that stage
Yeah,
of and you okay, so you went March 15th, 2005 is your clean date?
I think it's
Something around there?
17th or 18th. I have I
Sorry, it's
have the
wrong.
18th on my calendar. That's okay. You
Okay.
don't need to be sorry. Yeah, I have the 18th on my calendar, but I for some reason sometimes celebrate on the 17th. I'm like, does it matter? Doesn't really matter, but yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. The actual day I guess doesn't. I
It
guess
sort
I
of does though, because you want to be like, this is my clean date.
a lot of us celebrate it as a birthday where it is like I was
Yeah,
literally reborn on this day. Like my life
yeah,
began again. I
absolutely.
reclaimed it. I'm asking as a part of the timeline because one of the things that I'm thankful my therapist taught me about this, but I think was also touched on in my outpatient therapy was that first 6 months, and I think this isn't exclusive to like any drug or substance, but if you've been physiologically addicted to something, there's something called post-acute withdrawal symptom. It's called PAWS. And basically it means that in those first 6 months, you have a lot of brain fog. It's just like your brain is like you're healing. And
Hmm.
what you're when you're describing this like early rebirth period. I feel like I'm hearing that where it's like you're probably continuing to eat better, like eat, period. You are
Hmm.
sleeping, like getting consistent sleep and hydrating, and like you're taking care of yourself, and your brain and your body are healing. And there's this, I'm hearing this moment for you where you're like, right, I'm on the right track. I'm doing the right thing. And you start feeling more like yourself, or like how you always
Yeah.
hoped you could feel again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was a
Yeah.
feeling I never thought I would get back. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Just a lot of healing, and it's pretty amazing what our bodies can stand and then also like
I
heal from,
know.
you
I
know?
know. My
Yeah.
poor little body. Yeah.
I know, it's
Oh,
amazing. It's
sorry.
amazing what we put our bodies through.
I know. Um, so where was I going? So
Oh
we,
yeah, sorry, I keep
yeah,
interrupting you.
no, 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 no. Um, uh,
You're taking the bus, you're with
yeah,
your
taking the bus.
parents, you're doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, everything was going well. I did all of the things that I was sentenced to. I am proud to say that from the day that I decided to get clean in 2005, I never relapsed with meth ever. And I say with meth because I feel like I have to be, um, I can't say that I am 100% sober because I still drink. So I don't ever want to misrepresent that because I have so much respect for people that are actually fully sober. But
Sure.
yeah, I 20 years clean from meth is why I say it. And I specify that's what
Yeah.
it is because I don't want to ever misrepresent myself. I'm not sober. I am clean from the drug that destroyed my life. So yeah,
Yeah. No, and that is, I don't think that knowing that you consume alcohol makes your story any less incredible or impactful or
thank you.
amazing because you weren't on the hook for alcohol. Like that's like a huge
That's
difference in like our stories is like
yeah,
that is not the same. They are two, like one's a stimulant and one's a depressant. That was not your drug of choice. That was not your thing. That was not what you would burn your life down for. So I think
that's
that
not
it's a
and
celebration.
yeah, and it's not what I ever consumed to the point where it has any negative impact on my life. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Did you, yeah, well I think it's great to be honest where it's also like in our world, there's so much that's just like very binary where it's like you're either this or you're this.
yeah,
And
yep,
life isn't that way. And so I think it's good to be like you can be to the point that you had gotten to with your addiction and almost 20 years clean and still responsibly drink
yeah,
and like that you're happy and healthy.
yep,
Well, it doesn't have to be so binary.
correct. Thank you.
Hmm. How did you make that decision that you were ready to reintroduce alcohol?
Yeah, I didn't drink for quite a while
Hmm.
after I got clean. I don't know. Probably, I mean, to be honest, it probably is part of the addict in me that just wanted to do something. Um,
Yeah. Well, and that's
I think,
legal.
yeah, yeah,
You're
it's
of age
legal.
is
It's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that I was probably around friends and even for a number of years, and I just didn't drink. And probably one day I just decided I'm just gonna have a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
I
eased in. Yeah,
and we can cut that part out if it's not worth it. I have a couple people in my life that have a I'm gonna call it a harder drug recovery story, and they were very like, okay, I'm making this decision, and it's like New Year's Day. I'm gonna try this. I hope it's okay, and
yeah,
it was everybody's fine. Everybody's still
yeah,
clean. So
yeah,
everybody's story's
totally.
different too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was your launching point. And
Yep.
what has I feel like there's probably just countless ways that your life is different now, but what are some of the best ways that you get to be you and enjoy your life as a free, clean, sober woman?
I will say because of I'm one of those people that feels like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Paths lead you where you need to be at a certain
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
Um, during this is just one amazing thing that happened because of all of the different weird random steps that I had taken in my life. While I was at home at my parents' house, living there, I got called, I got a phone call, and it was a supervisor telling me that I didn't need to come into work, that there was not a lot of work that day, so I could take the day off. And I was like, okay. And I was about to just go hang out with a friend, and I was walking out the door, and my dad came around the corner, and he was clearly in some sort of medical distress, and he was having a heart attack.
Oh my
And
God.
so I was not able to, he did not want me to call 911. He was trying to convince me that he had stuff he had to do. He had work he needed to go do in the garage. He was busy. And I was like, no, you're not too busy because I'm taking you to the hospital. Something's wrong with you. Anyways, yeah, I got him in my car, rushed him to the emergency room. He was very near not being able to be a living human being anymore. By the time I got to
Mm.
the hospital, he was like curled up in a ball in front of the passenger seat. Like it was not good.
Oh,
But
poor
yeah. So
guy.
anyway, what was happening is he was having a heart attack, and me getting him to the hospital saved his life. I mean, there's no, I know. And if all the weird things had not happened that the way that they did,
Mm-hmm.
if I would not have been there, I wouldn't have been living at their house. I wouldn't have been, no one would have been there. He certainly would not have called 911 on his own. I just know my dad, and he wouldn't do that.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, maybe when he was very close to dying, he would be calling 911. But yeah, so that was another thing that made me feel like, okay, this path that you're on is the right path. You've
Yes.
now helped save your dad's life.
Yeah, like for all the
It just
things.
it was just like, no, you're on the same path. All those things happened. You needed to be there when that happened so that he could keep living. Yeah, that was another big thing that reaffirmed my decision to stay off drugs.
That's one
Was
of those
I knew
things.
I was on the right path. I knew that I was where I needed to be.
100%. I feel like that's one of those things where it's like all the things that clicked into place for you to be there,
Hmm.
to be there and effectively
Yeah,
save his life. But then it's also like, and I'm clean and I don't have to worry about like getting pulled over while I'm driving. And I don't have anything on me that if I'm speeding to the hospital, like I'm just speeding my dad to the hospital. Like it's all these things that you just like, like worries that we carry around with,
yeah,
where it's like, oh, should I be, um,
yeah. And why was I called off work?
and why
So
was I called? Like all those
yeah,
things where it's
all
just
those
like,
things. I was called off work so that I could save my dad's life is why I was called off work. That, I mean,
exactly.
call
And
it
you
what you
were
will.
of sound mind and clean
Yeah.
and able to take care of him.
And to make right decisions and to stand up to him when he tried to tell me he needed to keep going to do work in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
no. Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
That's a
Good stuff. Yeah.
yep. Yeah, and that's I know sometimes in 12-step settings we say living amends, and that is one of those to me where it's like
Hmm.
you have throughout the course of this interview talked, many times about like how you recognize now your actions harmed caused pain to your family, but
Hmm.
then you get these moments like this where it's like by being at the right place at the right time, you're able to be like, I'm here now. And we get
Uh-huh.
that on the other side. We
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, totally. My relationship with my father was my most difficult one, and
Mm-hmm.
getting he was the one that struggled the most with, uh, it wasn't that he wouldn't forgive me. He just had been so hurt by my actions that, it was really hard for him to allow me back into his life. And so that seemed like it created this bond between us. And now I know I'm his favorite. Just kidding, sisters. But I did save his life,
You did
so
save his life.
I get a gold star now. Yeah, it really helped me rejuvenate that relationship that I had with him.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a little gift from God, I think.
Hmm.
That I like.
I
It
love
makes me
that.
smile. I know I was his biggest problem, but then I was his little helped him out a little bit, so that's
That's
good.
right. That's
I
right.
know.
Were you able to? I'm guessing that whatever happened medically to him, that he needed to do some recovering. Were you able to also
Oh,
be there and like support him through that
yeah.
too?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
got a couple stints in an artery, I believe. And yeah, yeah, I was there.
Hmm.
It was It was good. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all stuff you wouldn't have been able to do if you were using still.
Yeah. Yeah. But to go back to your question about how am I living my best life,
Hmm.
um, I would say in 2007, I discovered this, yeah, 2000.
Oh my
Have you
gosh.
heard? I
I've
know.
never heard of it. What are you referring to?
I started getting back in touch with all my best friends from high school and from my childhood,
Oh.
and it was amazing. And I have such close relationships with quite a few people. But yeah, I that really helped me too to just get back into the old friendships, the ones that were healthy and happy, and I love my friends so much, and that also helps with the loneliness that you get from leaving behind your friends that you have from doing drugs with them. Like everything started to just reset. It was wonderful. So none of my friends will ever get rid of me because they're locked in for life. Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, I live literally across the street from a best friend of 34 years. It's pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, yeah, I just started getting in touch with people and we started picking up our old habits of going to concerts together and camping together and doing all the things that we should have been doing the whole time. But I just took a little break for a second and took a different path. But yeah, we all reunited. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a happily ever after thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just never went back. And um, yeah, I got to enjoy my family and I am still enjoying them so much. I'm kind of where I live is sort of seated in the middle of the houses of my loved ones, and it's fantastic. Yeah,
I
you
love
know,
that. I love that so much. And
thank-
yeah, it's like like people in addiction, like you were kind of like in your own world and cut off and doing your own thing. And then now you're here and you're very connected. You love your people. You can just like, I can just so tell from like, even just like the way that you talk about them, how your face looks and
yeah,
lights up.
yeah,
Just so much
thank.
where there was a lot of pain and suffering before. Now it sounds like there's just like a lot of love and meaning. And that's
Mhm.
incredible.
I think anybody that goes through drug addiction and feeling like the hell that you're living in will be forever, which is a horrible feeling. Once you pull out of it, the gratitude never goes away.
Mm,
Like I am grateful every single day.
hmm.
I'm I'm very, very happy to be alive and healthy. And yeah, you
Yeah.
don't ever forget that loss of freedom. And it's not just the loss of freedom from being incarcerated, it's the loss of freedom of choice because you do not, chemical addiction does not allow you to have, you're not making decisions that are rational. You are simply unable to. So yeah,
Yeah.
it is
That,
freedom. Yeah.
yeah. A lot of power there.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to share or add in? And if not, we can go to our final three questions for the episode.
Okay. What do I want to share?
I don't
I
want to
think,
rush us through because I know we spent a lot of time on the
yeah.
like the hard part, and now it's like for 20 years she's been doing it. She gets to
Yeah.
be an auntie and live her best life, being a career lady.
Yeah, and just so you know, you guys, I did not live with my parents for that 20 years. I
When did you move
I
out?
I did move out about I think about a year and a half. Well, I was with my parents for like 6 months, and then I lived with my sister for maybe a year and a half, and then I moved to Seattle and lived happily ever after. I do not still live with my parents.
Yeah. Well, and even, yeah, in our culture, we move out from our parents, so we don't move back in. And other cultures, especially women, they stay with their parents until they're married. So just have to like say that.
Yeah.
But also, I just want to like, I think it's a great part of your story that you were able to move back in because I think a lot of people, that housing piece where like you're talking about relationships that you need to sever and walk away from. Again, 12-step ism is playmates and playgrounds. So people you used to play with, the places you used to play, you need to find a reset. And so finding a
Mhm.
safe place like your parents or somebody, so another environment where you are able to be safe and heal, a lot of people need that in early addiction, and for you, it happened to be your parents, and then you were able to launch from there and not stay
Yeah.
there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I'm very, very lucky that I have and had and have a very strong support group, because many people do not. Many people are born into addiction. Their parents use, they don't know anything else. They
yeah,
use
yeah,
that's just, it is literally the only thing they've ever known, and they have nothing to turn to at all. Like they
yeah.
don't. And it's like a mountain that's insurmountable for so many people. So I am very grateful that I had my family and that they forgave me and gave me a chance again, because I know that was not easy by any means for them. Um, and yeah, I wish that more people had that, because I think there would absolutely be more people in recovery if they had a family that they could move back in with. Like, what if I didn't have them? I really don't know what I would have done.
Yeah,
Like, what
yeah,
would I have done?
right. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think some people try to do it with like transitional like halfway housing,
Yeah.
but that's still not the same. Like, I don't know.
I still feel like without their belief in me and this silly little contract that I signed, that I
Mm-hmm.
would not do drugs, just stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like that was, I don't know. If that was, I just feel like I couldn't let them down again. I could not do
Mm-hmm.
that again to them. I feel like if I did not have them in my life, I would have moved into a halfway house. That is a good point. That's what I would have done. I think I probably would have fallen back into addiction, which is really sad.
I think that's why there's such a high recidivism rate, regardless
Uh-huh.
of like if people are going in with addiction or not. Like whatever is keeping, whatever you're perpetrating, it's like if you go back into that same environment or around the same people, it's just, I don't know. It just seems like a really tough thing with how our culture and society are constructed.
Yeah, and I don't want to say, yeah, I don't want to just have any self-doubt that I think that I would have done that, but I guess that's my biggest fear, is that if I did not have them, I had such a higher likelihood that I would use again. But
Yeah.
yeah, thank goodness for
Y-
things like halfway houses, because
Yeah.
they also have things like, I don't know if they actually, it's not an actual contract, but it's a, if you want to live under this roof, you will stay
Oh,
clean.
the ones that I'm aware of, it's like you have a dirty EUA, like you are out. Like
Yeah, you're
it's
out.
it's kind of a last chance. The other thing with moving back in with your parents that I feel like I hear in your stories is like it's your chance to be seen by them again. I know you have this like contract, this accountability of like I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, I'm playing by the rules, like, but it's also like it sounds like your experience was very much like I only let them see me from time to time unless my mom finds me
Hmm.
or unless I show up on Christmas. But like it's this chance for you to like be like, here I am today. It's another day clean. I'm going to work. Okay, I'm back home from work now. Like you, and that is something that a lot of people. I'm sorry. I hope this whole episode I'm not just like categorizing you based around the
No.
addiction stuff. I just feel like I'm like this is a people don't realize like this is a thing where it's like you try not to be seen for so long because you're like I know I'm sick. I know it's not looking pretty over here. So you try to hide out and then by you moving back in, it's you they got to see you. And
Yeah,
I'm sure
totally.
your mom especially just loved that. It sounds like her mother's heart was just there, just loving you nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a good egg.
I did it did take me a minute, but I did a good job.
Yes, you did. I'm glad you can give yourself credit for it too.
Yeah, thank you. I will
Hmm.
take credit for it, but yeah, I give very give give a lot of my the credit to my family. A lot of people in recovery turn to God,
Hmm.
and they say that without their higher power, they would not have been able to get clean, and they give the glory to God. I I give it to my family. I
Yeah.
swear, if they were not there for me, then it was them. It was my
Yeah.
family that helped me. It was me
Hmm.
and my family. So
Hmm.
yeah,
It's it's the power of love.
Yeah,
is
it's absolutely the power of love. Yep.
and you felt the love from your family, and like you're saying, like some people are like love of my higher power, love of God.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's like I don't know. I'm not an expert or a philosopher, but it just seems like if you can access love and receive it as a part of starting your life over after an addiction,
Yeah,
then
you see that you're worth it. And yeah.
exactly.
And I hope that I'm not making it sound like if you don't have a support group that you're not going to be able to pull off this win. Because if you are listening and you're in addiction, you absolutely can do it. But just know that if you're struggling because you don't have support, that we see you and you still can do it. It's just a
Yeah.
different level. It's a different level of struggle, but you can absolutely do it.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. So, for listeners, Colleen and I know, so I do 12 step. Colleen doesn't do 12 step. Before getting sober, I tried refuge recovery, which is like and by tried, I mean, I like went one time and I was like, not gonna work for me, next.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying it flippantly, but like I tried different things. And when I went into detox, AA ended up being what worked for me. But I just think it's really important because I feel like society is like, this is the thing that will like you'll get sober if you have a support group. And like you were saying, Colleen, like that's like there are so many different ways. You don't have like for me, that is what it took and what it has taken. And I had to find my own way because of the spirituality piece, whole thing for another day. Like
Yeah.
finding my own way. Um, but there's a lot of ways, and it just like I think what I'm hearing you say, Colleen, too, is like it's helpful if you have like stable, well-intentioned people around you, and maybe it's your nuclear family, maybe it's a support group, maybe it's going to outpatient therapy. It can just be so helpful to have somebody who A has your best interest at heart, or like B, what helped me with 12 step was people literally teaching me how to do life without drinking because I didn't know how to be an
Yeah.
adult without having that in my life. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's all kinds of ways. Like this is not these. Yeah, there's no one way out. Your way is going to be what's right for you.
Yeah. You just have
I
to,
hope I said that okay.
yeah, you
Okay.
did.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about like how you received support or what you would suggest to other
Um,
people before
oh, yeah.
we can also get into the questions, and if you want to add on,
Yeah,
that's really
I
fine.
think let's get into the questions because I think that sort of
We're like
that
dipping
and
into it
that,
anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So, question number one, Colleen. If you could go back to right before you got clean in 2005, what would you say to that younger version of yourself?
I would tell myself that addiction does not have to be a life sentence,
Mm,
that there is hope if I can just see outside my pattern of self-destruction, that my life doesn't have to be filled with shame and guilt and pain, that I have no idea just how strong I am. My addiction had me tricked into thinking I was so strong for being able to live in the nightmare of active addiction, but my true strength bloomed when I was able to claw my way out of the dark hole. And that strength is in every single one of us. So you just have to find it.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I needed to hear that from myself, and all I could see was the opposite. But I would love to go back and tell myself that.
Yeah, I love that too. And what you were saying before about like early work in early sobriety, early recovery, where it's like you're building self-esteem, where it's like that's where we have that strength inside of us that we need those like little things where it's like, I got up today, I brushed my teeth,
Yes.
like where it's like
Mm-hmm.
building that self-esteem. Because I don't know anybody who is in recovery that's like, I felt really good about myself when I got arrested, checked myself into detox, took my seat in
I
the
know.
12, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yep.
you're modeling that where it's like, you would tell yourself you have the strength in you. It
Yeah.
doesn't have
You
to always be
just.
like this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, question number two. What has been the most helpful tool or resource in navigating your challenges?
My strongest would be the strong support group, my family, my
Mm,
reuniting with my best friends who I'd left in the dust. After moving out of my parents and my sisters, relocating to a new area, I moved up to North Seattle, getting a job, getting yourself, it's not actually a tool. It just really helps you to relocate, get away from the triggers. Visual triggers, I still going to certain parts of certain towns or areas, I just really don't ever even want to go back to areas. So
Mm,
relocating. I mean, I
yeah.
cannot stress that enough. North Seattle is not that far from the Federal Way, Kent, Renton area, but it was far enough for me to get away from those triggers. So
Yeah.
it's not really a resource, but
No, I think that
that's what helped
yeah.
me.
What I appreciate about that too is like it's and what you're highlighting is like you didn't move to the East Coast. You didn't move to China. Like
No.
you just relocated in a way where you were out of your normal day to day,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully triggered less. And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of like that I think a lot of us can wrap our heads around like, oh, okay, I make a 20-minute move in a different direction. See what
Right.
that would be like. Like there's
It
agency and autonomy there.
it was everything. It helped me
Mm-hmm.
so much. Yeah.
Totally, totally. All right, last question. If you could say anything to someone out there who relates to your story, what would you say to them?
Uh, that you can absolutely pull yourself from the hell if you decide to. It takes 1 minute, 1 half hour, one afternoon, one day at a time. You just have to get past those miserable days and you will get so much stronger each day. You'll start to think more clearly. Just reach out to your loved ones if you have them. Be humble. Ask for help. If
Yeah.
you don't have a support group, look up your local AA or NA. Tell them you don't have support, and they're going to help you. They are going to help you find a sponsor, and a sponsor will call you on your shit if they see you acting out of character, or when like if they think you're using again, if you're just having a bad attitude, and that bad attitude will lead to you using again. They will call you on it, and that can be your support group. But you just have to decide to be pretty uncomfortable for a while you get clean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you just have to make the decision, and you
Mm-hmm.
can if I can do it, anyone can do it. If you
That's
can
what
do
I
it,
say
anyone
too.
do it.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
yeah, it is like recovery is possible. Do recover and yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what I'm
yeah,
hearing you say.
yeah. And you do have to humble yourself because you just have to. And
Yeah.
you have to apologize to people that you've done wrong. You have to, yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to do it all at once. Like it's just like
Correct.
one bite-sized thing at a time. And just
Yep.
like what we were talking before about post-acute withdrawal syndrome and how like your brain is literally resetting, your relationships are resetting too. It's not it literally can't happen all at once. So just like
Yeah.
take what you can. It's like a
Yeah.
muscle.
They say one day at a time. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of value in that. Just take it one moment at a time. If you need 1 hour at a time, do that.
Yeah. 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 I would ask myself, where are my feet right now? And that was thanks to my first sponsor. Where are my feet right now? Okay, that's all that really matters. Like I'm right here.
Yes, you're right
Everything else
there.
is not here.
Yeah.
But my feet are right here. That's where I am.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a guest of Uniquely Qualified. Is there anything else you want to say or add
No,
or
thank you
okay.
for letting me talk.
Yeah, it's been so great
Yeah,
getting to know you in this way and I know that others hearing your story will absolutely be inspired and I think empowered to take action on whatever
I
they're
hope
going
so.
through.
I
Yeah.
hope.
Well, listeners, thank you also for listening. If you don't already follow Uniquely Qualified, we are on Instagram at Uniquely Qualified Pod. We are also on Spotify, which is currently the only place that we're streaming. Please check us out. Share this episode with somebody you love, especially if you think that they would benefit from hearing Colleen's story of experience, strength, and hope. If you feel so moved, we would love a 5-star review on Spotify. And also, if you're inspired by Colleen's story, the story, our stories that we talked about together today, please feel free to direct message me on Instagram or email uniquelyqualifiedpod@gmail.com. I'm happy to be somebody that you share with. I'm happy to help connect you with resources to the extent that I can. And also, if you want to share, if you're saying like, okay, I hear Colleen's story, I want to step into my truth too, Let me know. I would love to have your voice on the podcast. And I just thank you all so much for your time and attention. And please remember, we are all uniquely qualified.